Okay, so if you guys want to turn to the first page, probably see this is a nice little graphic organizer of all the big sub-themes and the big perspectives in the first unit. So you got the perspectives starting at the top, right? The ones that we don't spend a ton of time on or haven't really looked at in a while is, there's the bell, is the difference between structuralism and functionalism, right? Who thinks they know the difference or can describe the difference between those two? It's like an older term that we haven't looked at in a long time. Let's just back up and start with, how did the field of psychology get started? Who was the first person on there? Wilhelm Wundt, right? He was the first person, and why was he established the first person? Because he did what? Yeah, he made a research assignment. So he was trying to measure data. So that was the first time an experiment was ever done where they were studying somebody's mind. How long does it take for me to recognize the balls hitting the floor? That was the first huge research assignment. So now they titled and started the field of psychology, which was measuring somebody's mind or understanding someone's behavior. Okay, so Wilhelm Wundt, you got to know him. He's the father of psychology. Okay, and he started looking at structuralism. Now you got the difference between structuralism and functionalism. Structuralism, they gave the analogy in the book as the car. Okay? Structuralism, in order to describe somebody's behavior, you need to understand how the specific elements of the car work. Okay, so let's think about it with the brain. In order to understand somebody's behavior, you need to know how the structural elements of the brain work. It doesn't really matter if they're working together. They just think that they want to look at the specific elements of an individual's mind. Now, functionalism thinks that they need to function together in order to be a successful person. Looking at all the parts together. If I were to turn on my car, okay, and my starter wasn't working, my engine's not going to work. And then my gas pedal's not going to work. And the gas isn't going to go to the car. Okay, so we need to look at the whole structure and how it all functions together. That's kind of the difference between the two. Maybe one question on those two. It's not going to be a big deal. What I would know is Wilhelm Wundt is a structuralist. William James is a functionalist. Okay. The Gestalt principle, we studied this with sensation and perception. This was another idea coming about at this point in time. And Gestalt psychologists think that you need to look at the whole situation, or we look or examine the whole situation opposed to all the individual parts. So when I'm taking attendance, okay, I look at the whole big picture, and I say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 seats absent. I'm looking at the whole opposed to all the individual chairs. Okay, and I did this, we did different activities where we looked at this. Where's that letter? G. You're looking at the whole thing opposed to all the individual parts. This isn't really the letter G, but we're using closure to close that off. Okay? That's another principle that you need to know, or another approach that you need to know. The other approaches are listed on there: psychoanalysis, behaviorism, humanistic, biological, evolutionary, cognitive, and sociocultural. Okay, so flip it open real quick. We'll come back to this. Go to page 4. Try real quick. This chart list should look familiar. I gave it to you back in Unit 1. And here's all the different perspectives. See if you could just name them real quick based off of the different people and the different ideas here. So number 1, Freud, that would be what? Psychoanalysis. Or psychodynamic, whichever one you want to write on there. Remember your hand. That is another tool that you could use to study it. Right here. I'm looking at page 4. Ready? We'll go through it real quick. Number one, you guys put Freud, right? Okay. Freud, unconscious conflict, childhood trauma, repression, dream analysis, free association. Know that. Okay, memorize him. It's important. What's the second one? Behaviorism. Perfect. Okay. Third one, where you think, you reason, you analyze, you process, you store. Cognitive. Good. All right. 4, Rogers, Maslow, feelings, view of oneself, human potential. Good. All right. Next one, brain parts, nervous system. Biological. All right. Names of countries, culture, society. Sociocultural. Good. You got genetics, inherited. Behavioral genetics. Okay. And then the last one then is what? Darwin. Survival. Evolutionary. Okay. I would do anything this weekend. I would like memorize this thing. These are all important people. This is all important topics. These are buzzwords. So when you see something unconscious, you should think psychodynamic. Okay. On the back side, okay, is another chart that I got from another teacher. Just another handout I'm giving you. Okay. It might be helpful when we start talking about therapy too. All right. Take maybe a minute and see if you could do it again. They're not all listed on there, so the ones that aren't listed on there, I put at the bottom. They're not disease, biological, behavioral, genetic, and evolutionary. You want to do the
job. Did you do that? If not, I can help you. Yeah.
all right? Pretty simple again. Should be something that's pretty simple. Definition is only observable behavior. We learn through punishments, rewards. Behaviorism. Good. 2, genes, the brain, the nervous system. This is looking at brain scans. This one is evolution, fear. This one could be a toss-up between, I think, what, biological and evolutionary. Okay, sorry that I wrote it on the bottom. I don't know what I was thinking then. See it on the bottom. I guess we did use biological, not evolutionary. All right, third one, psychodynamic. Good. Fourth one, individual thought process. Cognitive. And then the fifth one, people are basically good, self-actualization, humanistic. Okay, so it is missing behavioral genetic, it is missing evolutionary, it is missing sociocultural. Okay? Alright, go back to the front sheet then. Perspectives you have to know. Okay, that's kind of the first chart that's on here. Make sure whatever you're doing, you're memorizing those, you're embedding those into your head. Memorize those buzzwords. Okay, I think that there's usually like 10 questions on these alone. What if it has a question where Sandy has been impacted by the way that the place that she lives, her thought process, and the biological aspect of the individual? What would you answer for that one? Okay, she's been impacted by the environment, her thought process, and she's been impacted by her brain. Biopsychosocial. Okay, because those are the questions that students usually get wrong. What is it if you have a multiple different amount of approaches in an individual? There's not just one approach to describe their behavior. What do they call that word? It starts with an E. Remember? It's an older word. There was a note card for it. What? Eclectic. Okay, eclectic is the word you want to know. So you're not using one approach, you're using multiple. You're eclectic. Okay, you use variety. Alright. On the side of it, it says subfield in psych. We spent maybe, I want to say, 10 minutes on these. These are different careers in psychology. I listed them all for you. Okay, so things such as health psychologist, forensic psychologist, educational psychologist, engineer, development, clinical, counselor. Okay, I want you guys to get a little bit of a practice on it, so turn to page 2. Take a look at maybe the first, it's 8 through 13. Okay, the definitions are written there. There's a word bank on the bottom. Try and see if you could match those up. Just maybe 8 through 13. So the first one's apply psychological principles and research methods to the workplace in the interest of improving productivity and the quality of work. I think that one might be. We've talked about this one a lot, the workplace. I have productivity go up. Would it be personality? No. Would it be sports? No. Would it be industrial? There you go. Industrial psychologist. And now you have the nice definition there. I remember to stay back a little bit.
Makes them apply stuff. That's what we talked about in course, like looking at learning, like what's the difference between learning something and learning how to do something. We were talking about like actually having this knowledge of it and learning how to do it, like two totally different things.
There's some on the back if you get done early and you're flying through this. There's maybe a couple more on the back. This is another really good worksheet to study from if you're trying to memorize these people. These different careers. It's pure memorization. Those little trigger words.
Alright guys, let's go over the first page. So 8 through 15, the first page, again you have the word bank at the bottom. So we said that number 8 was industrial. That one also might be called industrial organizational. That might be thrown on the test. So just know those are the same things. For number 9, what did you guys come up with? What are the relationships between brain systems and behavior? Go ahead. What did you get? Yeah, biological. So I think even throughout this it says neuropsychologist, right? Same thing, we're looking at the brain and how those different things are affected. For number 10, these types of psychologists are concerned with what organisms know and how they come to know it. They study how people perceive objects and events, store past events in memory. Yeah, cognitive, right? That includes a lot of those buzzwords that you guys should have known from that prior worksheet. Number 11, we're concerned with application of concepts, tools, and skills from the field of counseling, guidance, and rehabilitation. Community, right? And then I think that one, if you continue on, it kind of gives the answer there a little bit. Couple hints. Number 12, we're working directly with public and private schools. Schools, right? Now, sometimes people get the difference between schools and educational psychologists a little bit confused. So remember, school psychologists are very specific. Educational psychologists are looking at the big picture here. Number 13, mental life and behavior shaped by interactions with other people. Social, okay. 14, we're looking at athletes. Sports, good. And then 15, we're looking at similarities and differences among people. Good, personality. You guys can go ahead and flip the page. I'll give you a couple more minutes for 1 through 7 here. Again, the word banks at the bottom, use that to help you. Let's continue on. So go back to number 1. We're looking at assessing and treating mental, emotional, and behavioral disorders. What's going on here? Clinical. Good.
This is a big one that you need to know a lot of the times. So like Katie has emotional problems. Who would she go see most often? Clinical. That's like the person you're going to go to if you're really experiencing like deviance, distress, dysfunction, which we started going over yesterday. You're the most often you're going to go to a clinical psychologist to help you get diagnosed with something. If it's talking about smoking and addiction, okay, and you want to lose weight, that's going to be who? Health. Okay, if it's talking more about your health, like you have an addiction, you want to quit smoking, you want to lose weight, that's dealing with like your physical health of the body. Okay?
There you go. Let's jump down to number 2 then. We're trying to accommodate people to make changes in their lifestyle. Maybe they're trying to cope with the death of a loved one, adjust to college. Good, counseling, right? Absolutely. Number 3 then? What do we get? Developmental, right? We're looking at how people are dealing with different issues as they progress through the different life stages. So back to unit 3, all of our developmental. Okay, number 4, we're looking at how we can change and create effective teaching and learning, making sure everybody is included. But educational, remember that's the big picture. School is working in one individual school. All right, number 5, we're looking at how people work with machines. Right, that's going to be more engineering. Number 6, this is one that people tend to get a little bit confused on. We're looking at how we can apply psychological principles to legal situations. These people might work in a courtroom. Forensic, right? A lot of times when people hear forensic, they think of, oh, CSI. Probably not here, probably not. My friend, she just got her master's in forensic psychology, and she found out it's not all that she thought it was going to be. She's a little bit disappointed. She thought she's going to be a little bit more hands-on. Instead, she spends a lot of her time in a courtroom right now. So make sure that you understand that's a legal issue. And then number 7, we're looking at biological, psychological, social factors. Again, working with your body. What's going on there? Yeah, that one's going to be the health psychologist. How'd you guys do with that? Good. Do you use the word bank a lot? Yeah? All right.
Okay, so let's go back to the first page. Okay, the overall themes, you can see that we kind of ran through the perspectives. Okay, and then we ran through the subfields of psychology. I kind of wrote on the board, these are the 2 big things that we got out of Unit 1. What I would do tonight, or I would do over the weekend, is I would, from memory, list all the approaches, and then right next to it, I would list like a trigger word. So if I said psychoanalysis, I'd say unconscious. If I said biological, I'd say the brain. If I said this, just to make sure that if you can write them on your own, or you can come up with a buzzword, you really know it. Second thing I would do is I would go home and memorize all the careers and sites. Okay? And then the same thing, have a buzzword for each one. So health, physical body, quit smoke. Forensic, law. Okay? Engineering, tools. So then as you're going through them, that's like a really good check to make sure you're memorizing it. And I would do it like on a sheet of loose leaf. I would just write everything out and then one buzzword for each. So it might be a nice, really good tool for you to study from. Instead of like all of these terms that you might not need to know. Just pick a buzzword out of it to help you memorize a little bit more. If that makes sense. Okay? Other things that you need to know about, it was a little bit on psychological research. Okay, you can see on the front page, I know I skipped over ethics right now, but psychological research was the second part. You should do really well on this due to the fact that you've had research your entire life in science classes. A couple things that are talked about is hindsight bias, overconfidence are the big words. Okay, why do we do research? Reason we do have to do research is because we have hindsight bias and because we're overconfident. That was the 2 big things that we had in the book. Hindsight bias is the I knew it all along phenomenon. Okay, so you kind of think about, you guys all said, we're talking about Virginia Tech in one of my classes yesterday. Okay, Virginia Tech was the boy that shot up the school, and he had a mental illness. And some people said after he did that, we knew he was going to do it anyway. Okay, no, you didn't know he was going to do it anyway. Otherwise, you probably would have stopped it before. Another thing, you guys did those brackets. Who ended up winning? Brackets, the basketball bracket. Duke. Okay, some people said, like they picked a different team, Kentucky, and they said, oh, well, I knew Duke was going to win anyway. Well, then why didn't you pick Duke? You picked Kentucky. Okay? The reason why we do research is because you want to gather that information. Overconfidence is another reason. Overconfidence is kind of that idea of like, oh, I knew that after you take a test. You're like, well, then why didn't you pick it? And you knew the answer. Or you're going to a test and you're overconfident. I don't need to study. I know all the approaches. I'm good. Okay? Skipping down a little bit to scientific method. Things you need to know in the scientific method. You need to know what a theory is, a hypothesis. Okay? A theory is a statement they believe is true, right? And then a hypothesis is an educated guess. Operational definitions. Circle that term. A lot of you guys are getting this wrong again on the midterm. Who's do you want to explain what that one is?
Yep. So with an operational definition, sometimes I like to call myself funny, right? I'm like, I sound funny. I think I'm funny, right? Do you think I'm funny?
No.
Yeah, you don't. Okay, whatever. So you can all have your own opinions. If I wanted to measure how funny I was, how would I do that? I could give you a survey, okay, but how am I really gonna know and make sure that we're all on the same page? If you go like this and you're like, that was funny, and in your head you're like laughing hysterically, but outwardly you're just like, okay, am I gonna know how funny you think I am? No. What if you go, and you're laughing, but in your head you're like, oh my god, that was so stupid. Outwardly I'm like, I got you, I'm so funny. So I don't know that. How am I going to know that we're all on the same page, knowing how funny I really am?
Another example students gave was Facebook status. How do you know if somebody's pretty? Or how do you know if you like somebody's picture? What do people do if they think somebody's pretty? Like the photo. If you want to measure something, like how pretty somebody is, okay, you could measure how many what you get.
Likes.
Okay, so what is an operational definition? How you're going to what?
Measure something.
How you're going to measure something. Step-by-step procedure of how you're going to measure that experiment. Okay, so Miss D would have to have, she got 6 laughs for being funny, then she must be funny. It's a way to measure that.
Or I could measure how loud you guys were, and I could measure the decibel level. I could see, oh, if I got this many, okay, fine. But maybe you just smiled, maybe I'm counting smiles. Just depends on how you define it.
And if we needed you to understand the different, let's say, research methods, okay, and we want to make sure that you guys are getting the same information between classes because you guys switched between me and her. If we did things very differently, you'd be so screwed up. You'd be like, what? I don't understand what she's talking about. But since we follow a step-by-step procedure of ways that we do stuff, we know that you're able to understand the same thing. To get the same goal. Okay, if everybody was doing experiments different, okay, then they wouldn't get the same goals at the end, and it wouldn't be a valid experiment. Okay, so scientific method, theories, hypothesis, operational definition, and replication. Replication is where you want to make sure it's replicated. Okay, if you're doing an experiment with, let's say, Piaget, and you want to check conservation between 2 little kids and how much water they have, okay, you need to make sure every single time you run that experiment, you're running it the exact same way. You're following that operational definition to get the results. All of that under scientific method, what is that done with? Surveys? Is it done with observations? Is it done with experiments? Experiments. All of those terms go under experiments. Okay. Methodology. Methodology, what are the different methods? Those are the different things such as case study, survey, naturalistic observation, correlation, and experiment. Maybe you want to circle those 5. Okay, case study, survey, naturalistic observation, correlation, experiment. Have you seen those before? Okay, and then all the terms that fall under it are terms that you should probably know for those major ideas. So let's take a minute or 2 and just see if you know the different methods. Go to page 6. This is another handout for you. Okay. See if under the research methods, for number 1, if you're watching people in their environment, that would be a Yeah, good. Naturalistic observation.
Oh, hey. What if you print Caroline's up there?
We're good. Just good. No, that's okay. We're good. I think I tagged an email on that.
Okay.
I let out. Okay.
Okay, cool.
Just tell her that's good.
Today when they walk in the class, I'm going to have them list all the approaches and a blank sheet of loose leaf, list 2 subcategories and list research. And then I'm going to give them points for it. I'm going to give them 2 minutes to do it. And I'm going to say, this is what we reviewed this morning. If you don't know them, I have to write their budgets all the time and stuff like that. You guys got this.
Okay, so pretty simple. Okay, remember I had you guys do an FRQ? An FRQ in the past, I want to say 2003, the FRQ was they said, here are the 3 research methods. Case study, survey, correlation. Explain the pros and cons to them. Look at, you have the answers right here on the sheet. We did this as an activity one of the first days when we started research. You've got to know why the surveys are good, why the surveys are bad. So the second one, study a few people, or one or a few people, what is that known as? Case study. And then right there, Peter, I'm not going to go through it for you, but you got your pros and cons for why they're good, why they're bad. You need to know that. Okay. Third one, questionnaire or written out format. Which one is that? Survey. And what things should you think about when you hear the word survey? What other vocab word? Wording effect can really impact it. And that's a term, don't worry, it's under this thing for knowing under surveys. Wording effect and random sampling. Okay? 4, using a statistical procedure in order to find the relationship between 2 things. Correlation. Remember, you need to know positive correlation, negative correlation. You need to know correlation coefficient. So if these are some of the questions that you have, write this stuff down that you have questions, and we can go over more of this, I would say, on Friday. Okay? If you come to the review session. All right, and then the last one would be proves cause. The only one that proves cause. Experiment. Okay? I put on there cross-sectional, longitudinal for you, and then ethics is another big part of this unit. So we kind of hammered out half of it so far. Right? If you turn to page 7, okay, here's a really nice summary of Unit 1. Okay, I pulled it, I probably broke some copyright, now I'm on YouTube with this. I broke some copyright laws here. Okay, I just copied it right out of a review manual, so this might be something for you to additionally study. Here's a nice little review packet. I will put the answers to the quiz, okay, on the bell, so if you did the quiz, you can check your answers. Okay, how was that? Was that helpful? Did you like the way it ran instead of me just lecturing at you the whole time? Okay, so if you didn't finish up research, I'll finish up tomorrow. Okay, after school, I recorded it, how well it's really recorded, so those of you that can't make it unless you have another opportunity. Okay? I think this forces you to study though, right? Be here, sitting here, okay. Yeah? Of course not. Okay, we're going over, I'm going to stop it. We're going